On our last chapter of Leadership Secrets, we're going to go over a number of different subjects, get a couple of different nuggets from Wess Roberts, author of Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. So stay tuned. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, we inspire. And today's nuggets that we're going to address are on perceptions and publicity, personal achievement, problems and solutions, reward and punishment, tolerance, and training. That's a pretty full plate, so let's get right to it. Huns who appear to be busy are not always working. Some people have a great skill that they look like they're busy. Check the results. Expect to inspect. What do we expect? Inspect to expect. Inspect to see that you're getting the results that you're expecting. People are not always working as hard as they appear. Okay? It is best if your friends and foes speak well of you. However, it is better for them to speak poorly of you than not at all. When nothing can be said of a Hun, he probably hasn't accomplished nothing very well. You want to be a player? You want to be a player? You want to be a leader? You got to make some activities. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to do the right thing. You're going to do it very, very well. People notice when you're putting forth effort. And you do get points for putting forth effort even if you fail, because you're showing loyalty. Contrary to what most chieftains think, you're not remembered by what you did in the past, but what most Huns think you did. Leadership is always about reputation when you're talking about big leaders. My major mentor, Bob Anderson, had a reputation. When he was coming into the office, people would shake. Oh, he's such a tough guy. All right. I lived in his house. Yeah, he was a tough guy, but he was a guy. All right. He was a married guy. He was a husband. All right. So, you role play up to your reputation. It makes it easier to perform. So make sure the reputation that you have about yourself out there is the one that you want to have out there, that it serves your purpose of serving your people. All right, let's talk about personal achievement. There is more nobility in being a good Hun than in being a poor chieftain. We're talking about two things here. One is being a big fish in a small pond versus being a small fish in a big pond. And the other is the Peter principle, which is being promoted to your level of incompetence. There's more nobility in doing a job well than doing a job that's at a higher level poorly. Focus on the excellence, focus on your level of achievement. Even the Romans have the strength to endure the misfortune that they bring on others. Frankly, I'm not real sure what that one means. I'm kind of thinking that it means that if you can dish it out, you also have to be able to take it. But this is one of the sayings, and I want to include it because I don't know everything. Maybe one of you does. Maybe you can give me a little advice. Let me read it to you again. Even the Romans have the strength to endure the misfortunes they bring on others. Next one. If all Huns were blind, a one-eyed warrior would be king. In any scenario where there is challenge, a leader will always evolve, and the leader will evolve from the masses of people. So that if everybody's blind, if everybody's blind in one eye, the person that's going to be the leader is going to be blind in one eye. Very simple. Great chieftains accept failure at some things in order to excel in more important things. You have certain strengths. Focus on your strengths. Don't focus on your weaknesses. Your strengths are what separate you from the rank and file. Your strengths are what move the needle forward. Okay? Your weaknesses don't do that. Assign and delegate your weaknesses to other people. Let them do it. All right? Once again, in my household, years ago, I was the cook and the wife was the person that fixed up the house. Why? My strength was cooking, her strength was being a fix-it person. All right? Go with your strength. You're going to get more done that way. Every Hun is responsible for shaping his life circumstances and experiences into success. No other Hun, and certainly no Roman, can do for a Hun what he neglects to do for himself. Once again, leadership mirroring what happens in the success formula. You have to assume responsibility. You can't blame it on somebody else. You can't blame it on a friend. You can't blame it on a foe. You have to take the circumstances as is and work with them and develop a starting line that is workable until you get to the next starting line, the next starting line, the next starting line, and ultimately the finish line achievement of your goal. Hun should be taught, okay, we're talking about problems and solutions now. Hun should be taught to focus on opportunities rather than on problems. One of the mantras that we had in my offices was we never used the word problem. So what did we say instead? To get people's mindset thinking the way they should be thinking is you have an unsolved opportunity. You've got to think of your challenges as unsolved opportunities, not as problems. It's a mindset that will allow you to win. Get to a starting line, move forward, next starting line, next unsolved opportunity. Get rid of the word problem, insert the words unsolved opportunity. Some Huns have solutions for which there are no problems. Do you know people like that? Some people that just create issues. They make mountains out of molehills. You've got to be strong enough to say, you know what? Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I'll take it under advisement. Next. It's a judgment call. But you've got to and usually you're going to get that from the same people over and over and over again. So it's actually easier to do than you think. Reward and punishment. If an incompetent chieftain is removed, seldom do we appoint his highest ranking subordinate to his place. For when a chieftain has failed, so likewise have his subordinate leaders. Don't need to really say much more than that. All right, if someone was a failure in a leadership position, why would you want to put the person that was under his command, that only knows what he knew, that was failing tactics, in charge? Doesn't make sense. You may want to reassign that person to a leader who is more competent and have them grow from it. Okay? So you don't just discard that person, but what you say is, you've learned as much as you can learn there. Before we put you in the big leadership position, we need to give you a little bit more training. Tolerance. Every Hun has value, even if only to serve as a bad example. One of the things that kind of inspired me to focus on leadership. Now I have a whole series on leadership that you'll see in the box below that you can click on that I did. I just always take the posture that when you hear similar objectives from different perspectives, this may click here, that may click there. The idea is to serve, isn't it? Is to get you to get the tactics that make a successful leader. Well, like I said, I have a whole series on that, and I recommend that you go and look at that series on leadership. But the thing that inspired me to really start doing this was I was working with a company and I kept seeing mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and I kept saying to myself, you know what, that's exactly not the way to be a leader. So take a look at things. There's always something to learn. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's like what not to do. The error in appointing an incompetent chieftain is leaving him in a position of authority over other Huns. When you have an incompetent in a position of leadership, guess what kind of results you're going to get, right? When you put them in charge, it's not going to work. To experience the strength of chieftains, we must tolerate some of their weaknesses. Some people, you got to figure out what is the most important thing about this particular position of leadership. If that person has that, then you're able to tolerate shortcomings that person has, and you tell that person, delegate those shortcomings out to somebody else, and you accept them, But remember, there's always a line to be drawn. When I worked with the company, there was a guy that was working, that was a national guy that was coming to different offices. It was actually a position where I was the prototype, all right? And then I had my own office, and this guy was coming to my office, all right? And I found out from my administrative assistant, my secretary, a young girl, 18, 19 years old, that this person had made unwanted advances upon her. Now, he was a good leader. He was somebody that was strong, but you got to draw the line someplace. I drew the line there. I called my boss, Bob Anderson, and he was not happy, but he knew what he had to do. There's a line that's drawn in the sand. You can't overstep that line. But you do tolerate to a certain extent. Judgment call, leadership, art, and a science. Suffer long for mediocre but loyal Huns. Suffer not for competent but disloyal Huns. When you have someone that has bought into the vision, they make mistakes, give them another chance. Let them go. They're focused. Their heart's in the right place. Give them encouragement. When you have someone that's competent, that's heart, is like, well, gee, I'm off at 5 o'clock. It's 4:30. I don't really want to do anything now. This is not a person that you want to give more responsibility to. Does that make sense? Training. Adequate training of Huns is essential to war. It cannot be disregarded by chieftains in more possible times. You always have to be preparing your people for the big battle. Teachable skills are for developing Huns. Learnable skills are reserved for chieftains. When somebody has a function to perform, you have to train them, you have to work with them. If there's something to be learned, that's for the leaders, okay, when you're talking about something. The consequence for not adequately training your Huns is their failure to accomplish that which is expected to them. Make sure your training is good. I like to use the PESO system. Prepare, educate, show, observe, supervise. It's very easy to do things that way. We are at the end of Leadership Secrets for Attila the Hun. My objective was to get you to learn some nuggets about leadership, some little nuances. Until the next time we get together, remember, hey, don't ration the passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.